As you're listening, don't forget to check out the Professional Amateurs podcast on YouTube. And while you're there, hit like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. All right, we are back with episode 25 of Professional Amateurs, covering now the Metropolitan Division. I still hate the name of this division. It's been like 8 years. I still don't like it. However, I don't know why I bothered with saying that. So we're going to continue with our season previews. First up, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Obviously, they get the biggest fish of free agency in Johnny Gaudreau, 7 years, $9.75 million. They bring in Eric Goodbranson on a 4x4, which I really don't like, almost as bad as the Ben Sherratt contract. They bring back Jonas Korpisalo, Jack Roslovic, Adam Buckvis, and they signed Patrick Laine to a 4-year deal worth $8.7 million a year. And out the door, they see Oliver Bjorkstrand go to Seattle in a cap dump in order to accommodate the Gaudreau contract. Jack, how do you feel about the Blue Jackets offseason?
That trade with Seattle was kind of tough. I think we already talked on that. The Goodbranson contract is ass, but this team is really trending in the right direction. And obviously adding the top free agents going to help with that. I think we talked about with Buffalo culture. I think that was a huge culture change for Columbus, that all of a sudden people aren't afraid to go there, and it brought Laine back. I think he's going to push 50 this year. It's going to be a good year for them. I'm excited for it.
They also drafted David Jiricek, 6th overall, with the Columbus pick, the Chicago pick, which is pretty awesome. They keep reaping rewards from the Seth Jones trade. Ryan, how do you feel about Columbus's offseason and how they project?
Yeah, I feel really good about them. I'm not sure if they're going to take the big step this year, but getting the biggest free agent is incredible for a small market like that. And then the prospects they have coming up are just ridiculous. So it's just a matter of how big of a step those guys take this year. I'm not sure if Jiricek is supposed to start in the NHL or not.
I don't think so.
Probably not. So maybe next year's their year, but I love the outlook of their team.
I feel like there's going to be a lot more variability with our placement for the Metro Division, just because we're not quite as familiar with the division as we are with the Atlantic for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I liked their offseason. I think they paid Laine a little too much, but how many goals did he score? He scored a bunch of goals.
Yeah, and now with Gaudreau setting him up.
Yeah, it's going to be ridiculous. So it's almost a good thing they got him before Gaudreau came in so that he wouldn't cost even more. And it was kind of a contract they had to give him. They couldn't let another guy go out the door. But yeah, I mean, obviously down the middle, it's not ideal. You've got Cole Sillinger, Jack Roslovic, Boone Jenner. Those are your top 3 centers. Probably not in that order, but it'll be a good team. Or no, it won't be a good team. It'll be a fun team. They got really nice young pieces. Kent Johnson's there too. I forgot about him. He's going to be wearing number 91 after Johnny Gaudreau took number 13. I don't know why I remember that, but anyway, Oliver Bjorkstrand's a huge loss. He had a big year for Columbus last year, and they got pretty much nothing for him in a cap dump to Seattle. I think they got a 3rd and a 4th. But again, I think the general outlook on their offseason is positive, and I'm curious to see where you guys have them in the division. Ryan, where do you have Columbus?
I have them 5th.
Okay.
I think they're going to make some strides, but miss the playoffs for sure.
Okay.
I think I would not be shocked if Kent Johnson just has a breakout year. If they can get Laine, Gaudreau, Johnson, those guys rolling, that could carry a team.
That should be their top line to start the year.
Yeah. They're going to be a fun team, and I have them 5th. They're not in the playoffs yet, but
I want to see a Matthews Laine Rocket Richard race. That'd be cool. Jack, where do you have Columbus?
I got Columbus going 3rd, taking the last spot in the top 3.
3rd. This is going to be such a wild division for us. Oh my God. That's actually sick. Did you want to expand on that or just?
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if I'm wrong on that. And this is more of a transition year, and next year's where they really take the step. But I'm just in love with their roster. Like the young guys they have, they're exciting. They're high skill players. And you said a Matthews line a rocket race. I think this is the year where it is.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I think I don't think they'll win a round, but I think they'll be a fun enough team, an exciting enough team, and kind of just be vibing with the. All of a sudden, Columbus is in a sad place to be. It's an
Yeah.
exciting place to be now, and I think they're going to ride that. Get in the top three.
I've got Columbus 7th. I'm actually shocked that Jack had them 3rd.
That's brutal.
And I'm actually surprised that Ryan's placement in 5th. I didn't think they were going to be anywhere near. I thought like max 6th place. I was battling between them and the other team I have in 6th. But
I had such a hard time placing this division. Like it
Yeah.
it could go so many different ways. So
yeah.
this is going to be fun.
The best teams in the division are so old now.
Yeah.
But the bad teams in the division are so young and on the rise. It's going to be weird.
That's kind of what mine came down to. Is I was looking at like Pittsburgh, I was looking at Washington, and I was like, I think these teams are going to run out of steam.
Yeah.
And Columbus is just going to be enjoying the ride. They're there for fun at this point.
I've got Columbus in a very fun 7th place. I think they're going to be a really fun team. I think Adam Bachvist is going to have a big breakout season. He's going to really cement himself on that blue line from that Seth Jones trade. Moving on, Washington. I really liked their offseason. They bring in the number 1 goalie, Darcy Kemper, 5 years, 5.25. They bring in Dylan Strome on a 1-year deal. They bring in Connor Brown in a trade with Ottawa. And out the door, they see Vitek Vanacek in a trade to New Jersey. They lose Justin Schultz, Ilya Samsonov, and Michael Kempney. Jack, how did you feel about Washington's offseason?
I like that a lot. I still don't fully agree with the Samsonov, just letting him walk. I don't see, even if they knew they were bringing in Kemper, the harm in keeping him for another year as a cheap backup and see what happens. Other than that, though, it was a pretty stellar offseason. I think Dylan Strome could be kind of that under the radar, take a flyer on a guy and be the signing of the year for this offseason.
Ryan, do you have Cap Friendly up there?
I do.
Who's Washington's backup going into the year?
It is Charlie
Lindgren.
Oh, that's not that bad. Okay. I had no idea because I just realized now that they lost both their goalies.
Yeah, they gave him like 3 times 1.1, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's really
and he's someone like I watched quite a bit in Montreal's farm system. I like him. He is
How
a
old is
solid
he?
backup.
He is 28.
Oh, that's actually, I don't mind that at all.
Now,
No, it is a good backup. It's just like Samsonov has that potential to still be a first round pick, like a star.
Ryan, what do you
really
think?
Make sense.
What do you think of Washington, and where do you have them in the Metro?
I think they had a great offseason for what they could accomplish. They also like Cap Friendly showing Backstrom, Wilson, and Hagelin on the IR. I'm pretty sure Backstrom is supposed to miss time. I'm not sure about the other two.
Hagelin and who?
Wilson.
Oh yeah, I think he is missing the year. I think didn't he have an ACL or something?
I don't even remember that at all.
I thought I heard he's out till like Christmas or something.
Yeah. So they do have some significant
I forgot about that.
Too, which is why I think they brought in Connor Brown and Dylan Strome for sure. If they get healthy again and all those guys come back, this could be a really dangerous team. But I currently have them at, I believe it was 4th. Yeah, 4th. I have them 4th in the division.
Tom Wilson had knee surgery in May, and his timeline was 6 to 8 months. So probably sometime after Christmas.
Okay.
Which that's tough. I actually didn't. I forgot that.
And Backstrom's missing significant time. I'm pretty sure too.
I think he missed a lot of time last year too. I think his is a back situation.
He like even alluded at the end of the season he might be done. So
yeah. Jack, where do you have them in the?
So I also have them 4th in the Metro, and I have them taking the first wild card spot.
Okay, I have Washington 2nd. I really like that they brought in Darcy Kemper. I really like Dylan Strome. I am shocked that Chicago let him walk as a restricted free agent, or not even like they didn't even qualify him, so he was unrestricted. But I think Dylan Strome's gonna have a breakout season. I've always been high on him, and he showed flashes with Chicago. He was playing with DeBrincat and Kane, but he's gonna be playing with good players in Washington as well. So I've got them 2nd in the division. I forgot about the Tom Wilson situation and the Nick Backstrom. but I still like them being second place. I think they've got a lot of good players on their team, veteran team, always gunning for Gretzky. So I think it'll be a good year for the Capitals.
Yeah, I don't think I clarified, but I also have them in the playoffs. Like I think it's 4-4 for me.
Okay. All right, next up, we have the Carolina Hurricanes, one of the busier teams of the offseason. They bring in Max Pacioretty he's only got a year left, but he had an Achilles injury, I think.
Yep.
So he's going to be out at least 6 months. They bring in Brent Burns in a trade with San Jose, Andre Kosh on a 1-year deal, Dylan Coughlin in that same Burns trade, and they just recently signed Paul Stastny to a 1-year deal. Out the door, they see Tony DeAngelo, Nino Niederreiter, Vincent Trocheck, Ian Cole, and Max Domi, as well as future considerations. And they brought back Martin Necas on a 2-year, $3 million contract. How do we feel about Carolina's offseason?
I feel great about it. I think the moves were fantastic. Seeing Pacioretty's going to miss significant time, that's tough, but I still think this is a ridiculously good team that is 100% a contender in this league.
Jack?
No, I really don't have much more to add to that. I think Pacioretty injury obviously sucks, but he would have been a huge ad. And I think the Brett Burns ad kind of taking over that Tony DeAngelo role and being a lot less of a question mark in the process of doing that. And I think Burns really fits into like the bunch of jerks sort of vibes they got going on, and kind of like the, I guess, like theme of the team. I think he's going to fit in really well in that dressing room.
I'm really excited to see Brent Burns in a Hurricane jersey. I think it's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
And it would have been awesome to see Max Pacioretty just slide into that lineup. It's too bad he's hurt, but once he comes back, I'm sure he'll still be impactful. And then Paul Stastny probably in the bottom 6 center role. I really like their offseason. I've got them finishing first in the division. What about you guys?
Yeah,
Same.
I also have them first in.
All right. So we've got unanimous division leaders in the Eastern Conference going into the season. So we transition now over to the New York Rangers. A bit of a surprise season for them last year. After the Vezina season from Igor Shesterkin, they bring in Vincent Trocheck on a 7-year contract worth $5.6 per. They brought in Yaroslav Halak to back up Shesterkin, and they see Ryan Strome, Alexander Georgiev, Andrew Kopp, Frank Vetrano, Justin Braun, and Kevin Rooney all leaving town. Ryan, how do we feel about the Rangers?
I feel fine about the Rangers. I still think they're a very good team. But like you just mentioned, they had a whole long list there leave. So they're going to look very different. And it will be interesting to see how that kind of takes place. Like, do Kako and Lafreniere take bigger steps this year? I really like the addition of Halak to back up. I think that was a great move. So I'm still pretty optimistic on them, but their offseason was meh.
It was so.
Yeah.
Jack, how do you feel?
I actually really like their offseason. They got a long list of departures, but one thing to remember is a lot of those guys were rentals. They were never supposed to stay.
I was going to say that too.
So it's really, I don't think it's as bad as it seems. As Ryan said, Halak's a top tier backup. He's been around. He knows what's going on. I think he'll be great for Shesterkin and kind of spreading the knowledge of what it takes to be a 65-game starter. I like a lot. I like the Trocheck contract. I think he's stellar. It's going to be a nice 1-2 with Zibanejad. And I said it before the playoffs. I still believe in Kako and Laugh. I think they're going to break out.
I don't love the term on Trocheck, but I mean, that's such is life in unrestricted free agency. And they had Ryan Strome leaving, so you kind of had to bring someone in. It's a bit surprising that Strome left and signed a 5x5 in Anaheim, and Rangers didn't do that. I personally would have done that if I was the Rangers rather than giving Trocheck 7 years, but maybe Strome just didn't want to be a Ranger. They got good assets for Georgiev, and I would argue that they got better at backup. That's not saying that I don't think Georgiev is going to be a better goalie. Just based off of Georgiev's performance last season, I think Halak will be better as a backup this year.
And that's like a very underrated thing, like the mental ability to play only 20 games and be ready.
Oh, yeah.
is a huge thing. Peter Budaj was the backup in Montreal. He was one of the best backups I've ever seen. It's kind of an underrated craft to be able to do that.
For sure. All right. So where do we have the Rangers coming in the Metropolitan Division, Ryan?
I have them second. I think they're right up there. In the division again, I do think there will be some separation between Carolina and the Rangers. Like I do think when I look at the rosters, I'm more excited about Carolina's. But there's a lot of X factors that could be game changing for the Rangers. Like I think we do see Laff take a step. So that'll be interesting just to see how big it is.
So
But
when we're saying we think Lafreniere takes a step, what do we think? Like over under 50 points?
I think he goes over.
Jack, what do you think?
I using that number, I would say over for Laugh and right around for Capo Keiko.
Okay. Where do you have the Rangers coming in at the end of the year?
Second as well.
Second. Okay. I have the Rangers third. So I think unanimously we have them as a playoff team, which is no surprise when you've got a goalie and a core like that. They've got the forwards, they've got the D, they've got the goalie. Oh, and they gave Trouba the captaincy, which is kind of cool. But yeah, nothing too nuts for the Rangers, but they did what they needed to do considering how many players they were losing that they added at the deadline last year. All right, let's hop over to Long Island. We've got the New York Islanders. This should be good. They bring in Alexander Romanov 3 times 2.5, and they extend Noah Dobson 3 times 4, and that is it. Lou Lamoriello was not busy this offseason. And he actually had a quote, some of the best moves you make are the ones that you don't make, which I thought was hilarious and articulated the offseason for them pretty well, considering they made one move.
He should listen to his own advice on contracts sometimes.
He absolutely should. Although those contracts are good. I think the Romanov one will end up being nice.
Yeah, I was not referencing those.
I know. The Dobson contract's gonna be sick. Like their top 4 of Pulak, Pelech, Romanov, Dobson signed at whatever those guys are, like 5.7, 5.5, and then 2.5 and 4. Like that'll be good. The forwards are a mess. They didn't do anything to address that. Barzal is still 1 year away from restricted free agency. But they've got top 5 goalie in Ilya Sorokin, dark horse Vezina candidate, if you want to call it dark horse. I think he's kind of a blatant Vezina candidate. Jack, how do you feel about the Islanders' lack of an offseason?
I do love their top 4, and I love Romanov. I love the contract for him and Dobson. As you said, I don't know that it is a mess. Sorokin is a top tier goalie. I wouldn't even put him in the dark horse for the Vezina because his team's not going to be good enough for him to get wins. And talent-wise, is he a Vezina goalie? Sure, but it's not going to happen this year. And we talked about it in the past too. Since he came over late from overseas, he is close to free agency already, and he'll want to go somewhere where he can win, and it's not going to be Long Island.
And they probably won't even have cap space by the time he comes up because they'll have given.
Well, Matt Martin probably needs a new deal.
Yeah, exactly. They'll give his. By the time Sorokin's UFA, they'll have given Matt Martin all the money. Ryan, how do you? Sorry. Jack.
Sorry, I was going to add on one more thing. Barzal is good as gone, and as again we talked about it before, they changed coaches, but to someone who was Barry Trotz's right-hand man, so it's just going to be more of the same.
All they did was go from Trotz to Trotz's disciple. That's all that happened.
Literally, just a slightly probably cheaper version.
Yeah.
So Jack, where do you have them in the division?
Dead last in the Metro,
Ooh.
second to last in the East, just ahead of Montreal because I want Connor Bedard.
Okay. Ryan, how do you feel about the Islanders?
I feel terribly about the Islanders. If they have any chance at success, it's going to come from the back end. I don't think they're going to score very many goals at all. Like
Definitely
the forwards are just disgustingly bad. And like Jack alluded to, Barzal, I think is as good as gone also. So nothing inspiring about this team other than maybe like the defense. No, I have them 7th. I really flirted with putting them last, but I just couldn't. I
have New York coming 6th. I think they get some positive regression from last year, even though they finished 5th in the Metro last year. I think they win more games this coming year because they don't have to play on the road for 13 games, and COVID shouldn't be as much of a factor, if at all. But I still have them missing the playoffs, finishing 6th, moving down in the division. It's just an uninspiring roster, an inspiring core. They barely even have a core. I don't know. Islanders keep on catching strays from the Pro-Am podcast. All right. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They made a lot of moves. They brought back Brian Rust, 6 years, 5.125. Evgeny Malkin, after an extended contract standoff, they bring him back 4 years at 6.1. Chris Letang at 6 years at the same cap hit, 6.1 million. And for some reason, Ricard Raquel, 6 years, 5 million per season. As well as bringing in Jeff Petrie through trade with Montreal, Jan Ruda through free agency, Ty Smith in that same Petrie. Oh, wait, no, that's a different trade. Ty Smith in the trade with New Jersey. And out the door, they see Mike Matheson and John Marino going elsewhere in the Eastern Conference. Jack, how do you feel about Pittsburgh?
I think they're trending down. This is the end of an era in Pittsburgh. I think in the next couple of years, it's going to get ugly. They don't really have much for prospect capital. Everyone's getting older every year. Like that Raquel deal is tough. I do like to add a Petrie and Ty Smith. I think a fresh start for him, kind of very good puck mover. Just got to work on the defense a bit. His potential's there. But yeah, they're trending down, and there's another team where I don't think there's really help coming.
I don't hate Pittsburgh's offseason. Like, I love that they brought back all their guys. Like, they brought back Rust, Malkin, Letang, etc. I don't like that they brought back Ricard Raquel on a 6-year contract. But I just found it very odd that they had to get rid of Marino and Matheson for cap reasons, and then they ended up getting rid of both and essentially replacing them with Petrie and Ruda. Like, I like the Ruda signing, but I don't like acquiring Petrie in what should have been a cap dump trade where you actually get assets because they were quality defensemen. I thought it was really weird bringing in Petrie for Matheson. I didn't like that trade from Pittsburgh's perspective. Although Petrie is probably a better player at this point. It's a weird one to me. Ryan, how do you feel?
Yeah, I almost echo everything you just said. They're still a decent roster with obviously the high end players that they have, but they didn't really get better, and they're still getting older. So I'm right on the same path with Jack and saying that they're going to continue to get worse. I have them 6th.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Jack, where do you have Pittsburgh?
5th, the last, so 9th in the East, first team to miss the playoffs.
Okay. I've got them 4th. I don't think this is the year just yet. I think Crosby's still elite. I think Malkin's going to bounce back. Letang had one of his best seasons last year. But they're like right at the edge of the cliff. It's going to happen any year now, and people have been saying that for 3 or 4 years, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that I still think they sneak into the playoffs. I still think they're a playoff team. But it's definitely getting to a point where it's like, all right, Pittsburgh, father time's coming soon. As for a team where father time is nowhere near hitting them, the New Jersey Devils, they didn't get that big, massive offseason addition people were expecting. I think we definitely had them in on DeBrincat. Didn't happen. Goudreau was widely expected to sign either there or in Philly. Didn't happen. But they bring in Andre Palat on a 5-year contract worth $6 million per year. They bring in Eric Haula, and they get Vitek Vanacek from Washington and sign him to a 3-year contract worth $3.4 per year. And they also acquire John Marino from Pittsburgh. Out the door, they see Ty Smith and Pavel Zacha leave. And they also extended Jonas Siegenthaler to a 5-year contract worth $3.4, which was widely heralded as one of the best bargain contracts signed this past offseason. Ryan, how do you feel about the New Jersey Devils, who I know are your second favorite team right now?
Yeah, this is probably going to be my hottest take, but I am very high on them. I think their core takes massive steps. I think they added some good depth with Palat and Haula. I love their defense with Graves, Hamilton, Marino, Smith, Siegenthaler. Like, their list goes on and on with the defensemen. And now with a little bit of security in Vitek Vanacek, hopefully he has a good season. And who knows, maybe Mackenzie Blackwood in a tandem or a backup can have a successful season. So I'm very high on them. I think they're gonna have a great season.
Where do you have New Jersey?
I have them third in the division.
Nice. I knew that was coming. Jack, how do you feel about the Devils?
I do like their off season. Their decor is looking good between their two kind of young in terms of experienced goalies. I think at least one of them can solidify this year as a realistic hope for the team. The Palat contract was a bit much. I think that was a bit of a panic. We got to get this done because we didn't get Goudreau. I've got them going 6th, 11th in the conference. I just don't think it's them yet.
Have either of you heard if Holtz is supposed to make the jump this year?
And Luke Hughes. Like I haven't heard anything about either of them. Wasn't Holtz with the team for a bit at the end of last year?
I think he was. So I'm pretty sure he's expected to make the jump. Like he was the same draft as Stützle, right? So it would make sense if like he gets a regular role now.
He's definitely in North America.
Yeah.
Like I think he was in the AHL last year, which is a good step.
He was drafted.
Yeah.
He was
so
drafted.
You add him and add him to that forward group. I think that's a very good lineup.
He was drafted 7th overall in 2020. So Ryan, you were right, and he played 9 games with New Jersey. So I would think that they brought him up for those 9 games, unless they were at the start of the year. It doesn't say. But you'd think that with him playing 9 games to preserve that extra ELC year, I would think that he's with the team this year.
Yeah.
As for Luke Hughes, I'm under the impression he's going to be with Michigan for another year, especially with the depth they have on D. They don't really need him yet. But that's just another guy. Like once he gets up, like him and Dougie Hamilton running the power plays is going to be insane.
And now they have Nemec coming too.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's right. He was drafted 2nd overall. They're loaded. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I've got them 5th. I think they're battling Ottawa for the 8th playoff spot this year. I think it's going to come down to New Jersey or Ottawa, get some fresh blood into the playoffs this coming season. It's going to be a really exciting season in the East with all of the older teams clinging to playoff spots like Boston, Washington, Pittsburgh. Honestly, you could probably throw Tampa in there too. And then you've got all these young up-and-coming teams that are going to be clawing and making big moves this offseason. Jack, you didn't give your prediction for New Jersey yet, did you?
I think I did.
What was it?
I have them 6th, but just outside.
So you have them 6th. Ryan has them 3rd. I have them 5th.
Kind of in the same way you guys weren't too ready for Columbus to be this year. I'm kind of seeing New Jersey like that. Like,
okay,
there's no denying that they're going the right direction. And they're going to be a hell of a team. I just don't think this is the year for them yet.
All right, moving on to the last team in the Metro. We're flying right now. We haven't even gone a 10-minute warning. So maybe we'll review our 8 playoff teams after we finish with the Metro. The Philadelphia Flyers. Definitely a controversial offseason, I would say. They bring in Tony DeAngelo 2 times 5. They bring in Justin Braun 1 times 1.75. And easily the most hilarious signing of the offseason, Nick Delorier, 4 years, $1.75 million per season. And
Lose
out the
Matty
door.
Missed that one.
Pardon?
Lose Matty missed that one.
I don't know what you're saying.
Lose Matty missed the Delorier signing.
Oh, yeah. And out the door, they see Martin Jones and Oscar Lindblom. So not massive losses. Tony DeAngelo is a good player, but it's very interesting to see Philly go trade a bunch of assets for a guy Carolina was never going to keep.
It has nothing to do with hockey, but like the vibe switch of moving out Lindblom and bringing in DeAngelo is interesting.
It's crazy. Your fan favorite guy who beat cancer and returned last season to bring in like the poster boy for troublemaker in the NHL. Like it's kind of wild. They don't really have a core. They don't have a direction. They're trying to win, and they should not be trying to win. I'm pretty sure Couturier
of all things.
Yeah, they signed Torts too. Oh my God, it's gonna be a hilarious season for Philly. I think Couturier's 8-year contract extension kicks in this year, and I think he missed most of last season. I don't even think Ryan Ellis is going to be on this team to start the year. Like, he's still hurt. He missed most of last year. It's just a mess in Philly right now.
I think Elliot Friedman was saying on the 32 Thoughts podcast that like the group of players was warned, saying that
Oh, yeah.
the start of the season does not go well. It's going to get ugly.
Yeah.
So this could be a very, very interesting season for the Flyers.
Poor Owen Tippett.
Yeah.
Jack, how do you feel about Philly?
It's bad. We'll leave it at that. It's going to get worse. I think it's interesting because they do have good pieces. Like, I love the Owen Tippett ad, but then you go and bring in Torts. Like, that's not going to help.
No.
I still believe in Carter Hart, but he's not going to have much going in front of him, so it's hard to find stability. And ultimately, they got JVR instead of Johnny Gaudreau, so
they have some bad contracts on their team.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of wild that like one of the big stories was that like Philly was not willing to attach assets to JVR because that's who they needed to get rid of to go sign Johnny Gaudreau. But then they traded assets to go and get Tony DeAngelo. It's completely weird. Like a defenseman they don't need at all. I don't know. When you have a chance to sign a 115-point winger that wants to play for you, like outwardly wants to play for you, you got to make it happen. And they just didn't happen. And I'm pretty sure the notable quote that came down from Chuck Fletcher was that it would have been hard to move the salary. Like I'm pretty sure that's what came out, unless that's like a fake thing. That's the rumored quote that.
I don't know how you messed that up. Like, maybe you don't know for months that he's interested in coming, but like, there's whispers of him leaving. And if he does leave, it's very likely he comes home. So like, how do you not prep for that, especially when you're going through a season of absolute garbage?
Yeah. It's going to be bad. They're going to be in on the Bedard sweepstakes for sure. I've got them last.
Imagine Bedard gets stuck with Torts.
Oh my God. It would suck.
Probably go back to junior.
I've got Philly last. I think they finished last in the Atlantic. I think they're going to be the worst team in the NHL. Just because actually Chicago is going to be the worst team in the NHL. I think Arizona is going to be better than Philly just because I think Arizona is going to have decent vibes. I think Philly's going to have really like a toxic room, especially with Torts there. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a bad year for Philly.
Yeah.
Ryan, where do you have Philly?
I also have them dead last.
Okay.
It's not going to be a fun year for them at all. And it's only going to get worse.
Who do you have last in the East between them and Montreal?
Probably Montreal.
Okay.
There we go.
Jack, where do you have Philly?
I got them 7th in the Metro, 14th in the East.
Okay. So that's it for the Metro. Let's quickly go back over both divisions and give our 8 playoff teams in no particular order. Jack, do you want to start first? I guess you have the order there, so you'd be the easiest for you.
Yeah, so in the Atlantic, I have Toronto, Tampa, Florida. In the Metro, Carolina, the Rangers, and Columbus. And then wild cards, Washington and Ottawa.
Okay. Ryan, what do you have?
Yeah, so in the Atlantic, my top 3 was Toronto, Tampa, Florida, with Ottawa making it in the wild card. And then Metro was Carolina, Rangers, and New Jersey Devils in my top 3, with Washington coming in at the wild card. I think me and Jack's wild cards are the same, and I would definitely put Washington above Ottawa, so same position.
I've got Toronto, Florida, Tampa as the top 3, with Ottawa at 4th place. I'm not dead set on them being a wild card team. I think it's a coin flip between them and New Jersey. And then in the Metro, I got Carolina, Washington, New York Rangers, with Pittsburgh and New Jersey being in that wild card conversation along with Ottawa.
Do we want to summarize who we have missing then too?
Sure. Jack, who do you have missing the playoffs?
Oh my, it's just a full list at this point. I thought we weren't doing list episodes.
No, I think it'll be cool to hear like some of the names.
It'd be cool to hear it all together.
Yeah.
So 9th, Pittsburgh, 10th, Boston, 11th, the Devils, 12th, Detroit, 13th, Buffalo, 14th, Philly, 15th, the Islanders, and 16th, Montreal.
Okay. Ryan, who do you have?
Yeah, I don't have an order like that.
Me neither.
Why did you guys suggest it then?
Well, no, I just wanted to hear like how the divisions kind of stack up in our minds. I don't know. A couple of us had teams jumping, so it's just kind of cool to summarize who we have missing. But in the Atlantic, I have Detroit, Boston, Buffalo, Montreal missing, and then in the Metro, I have Columbus, Pittsburgh, Islanders, and Flyers missing.
And for me, I have the Atlantic. I've got Buffalo 5th, Boston 6th. Who did I have 7th? Detroit 7th and Montreal 8th. I've got those 4 teams missing the playoffs. And in the Metro, I have New Jersey as a coin flip with Ottawa, as I said before. Islanders, Blue Jackets, and Flyers all missing the playoffs. This will be really cool to look back on at the end of the season.
Oh yeah.
We'll definitely have to do like a joint graphic.
Yeah, for like start and end of season. Yeah. So that's it for our Eastern Conference previews. We're gonna stagger when we release these. We are recording these in the same sort of 2-hour time frame. And next week we're going to do our Western Conference previews. So stay tuned for those. That'll do it for episode 24/25 of Professional Amateurs. Hit the outro.
Absolutely.